Hello, welcome to my NXT New Year's Evil review. There was no predictions video, unfortunately. There just simply was nay enough time. But I did put predictions over on my wrestling related Twitter. So make sure you check that out in the description. Go give me a follow. Because, you know, I talk about wrestling sometimes, and the fact that you're here listening to this sort of implies you might like that. So go do that. But I will try my best to remember in editing to put my tweets on the screen as sort of like evidence that I predicted it before the show. I mean, you can just go and check the tweets, they've got a timestamp. But yeah, we're going to talk about my predictions, we're going to talk about how the show was, how the matches were, etc, yada yada yada. The show kicked off with the title unification match between the North American champion Carmelo Hayes and the cruiserweight but the weight doesn't matter champion Roderick Strong. This was a really good match. Carmelo Hayes really impresses me. If he's as new as I think he is incredible. I feel like he might be one of the new prospects that actually has some sort of history doing the pro wrestlings. Because if he's not, if this is genuinely like his like I don't know 15th match or something ever, it's ridiculous. Like, he's really good. He seems too good for that. I mean, obviously fighting against Roderick Strong helps because he's obviously a really good wrestler as well. But this match was just top draw. Like, really enjoyed this. The only bit I didn't get was like the finish. So at the end, Roderick Strong kind of had Carmelo Hayes up for a superplex, but kind of tried to X-plex him. So tried to like throw him forward, like Pete Dunne does on his release vertical suplex, where he like flips them forward so they land in front of him. And he lands on his front instead of on his back, kind of thing. But yeah, he kind of did that off the top, but it looked like Carmelo Hayes didn't rotate enough. It looked a bit dangerous, to be honest. It looked like it might have hurt. But then Roderick Strong was the one who sold it. And Carmelo Hayes actually put his arms across for a pin, got a 2, then I think went to the top rope. Oh yeah, went to the top rope and like axe kick off the top rope and got the win. So I think it was supposed to be either a move by Hayes or at least a counter by Hayes. But it just looked like two guys falling really awkwardly and possibly hurting themselves, if I'm honest. But other than that, the match was just very nice. Very nice. Very good. Carmelo Hayes picked up the win, like I said, with the axe kick off the top and the pinfall. And retained his North American Championship, won the Cruiserweight Championship. I believe they're being combined just into the North American Championship. It was a title unification match. I don't think there was any stipulation where it was the winner's title that got kept or anything like that, but nonetheless, that would make it the North American Championship, which in my opinion would be the right decision. Like, if they don't want the weight class limit on the Cruiserweight title, fair enough, get rid of it. You know, which seems to be what they've thought themselves. But that's me, 1 from 1. I predicted Hayes to win on the basis that a lot of the, as the tweet that's hopefully on screen says now, but just in case I forgot to edit it in, on the basis that a lot of the new guys have been losing, and rightly so. You don't bring out all these new guys with these super established stars and just have them win no matter what, as the great DJ Khaled once said. I don't think that's even DJ Khaled, is it? It's someone singing on DJ Khaled's song, but whatever. And he's not great. He doesn't even go down on his wife, did you know? But as he said, all they do is win no matter what. And what that does with the wrestling audience, with a new guy that just wins, you know, a bunch of new guys who win over a bunch of experienced guys constantly, is makes them turn on him. And I don't mean in a good heel heat kind of way. I mean they'll just hate them because it's not realistic. These experienced guys should be outplaying the new guys to start with, and the new guys have to do this learning storyline where they figure this pro wrestling thing, this sports entertainment, pal, this whole sports entertainment wrestling thing out, and then start picking up wins. And I think they've been doing that quite well actually on NXT. This was definitely an example of a match that the new guy could afford to win though. Roderick Strong has never been booked ridiculously strong. He's never been NXT champion. He's never been on some mad undefeated streak. He's never been that guy. He can take losses and be fine. So yeah, I predicted that because I thought this is where you put a new guy over an older guy, you know, and benefit from that. So good booking, correct booking in my opinion, and that was why I predicted it that way. That was, in my opinion, the right way to go with it. But also, it just felt like it was going to be the way they would go with it. So yeah, that's why I predicted it, because I thought that's what they were going to do. This is easy, this prediction thing, isn't it? You just go with what you think they're going to do, and you just say it. Or type it, in my case, yesterday. Next, we had a pretty cool segment. It was really short, but I thought it was pretty cool. I popped a little bit, the crowd popped. Ciampa's sat in the dressing room, and AJ Styles walks in. And I think that might be the first time we've seen those two together on WWE TV. I think, maybe. I don't know. I'm thinking maybe NXT Invasion angle, leading up to the Survivor Series a couple of years ago. Maybe that one time AJ turned up in NXT, did he interact with Ciampa? I don't know. But I feel like that was the first time I've seen them two together on WWE TV, and that was pretty cool, because they're two, like, you know, they're two that, you know, the wrestling fans that still watch WWE, they really like, you know, and I really like, so that was cool. The Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classics were announced next. The tag team tournaments, men's and women's. They come around at the same time every year, roughly. No big surprise there, but still cool. You know, like, they're not ditching everything, which is good. They're not. The cynical part of me thinks, are they still doing it because, you know, Cody Rhodes is in AEW and they want to keep rubbing in the fact that they can use Dusty's name. I want to believe it's genuinely to memorialise Dusty. I really do. So let's just go with that and not overthink it, shall we? But that is there niggling in the back of my mind, like, is that what they're doing? I hope not. Anyway, next we had an AJ Styles promo where he came out and he started off by doing a lot of butt kissing. He was kissing babies. He was praising the local sports team. He was, you know, doing all sorts of stuff. Like, he was being good guy AJ Styles to the extreme. Then he mentions Grayson Waller, and immediately out comes Grayson Waller. Big shock. No one saw that coming. I did write in my notes, Waller is really good on the microphone. Like, just really charismatic, natural heel, good talker, convincing. Like, yeah, I like him. Styles challenges Grayson Waller to a match. He says, I'm in my gear. You know, let's do the fights. But Grayson Waller says, no, I want to be in the main event. Let's do it next week, basically. So that's what we're getting next week, which will be a fun match, I'm pretty sure. But then, at this point, Waller's actually got into the ring. So he swings at AJ. AJ turns it all around. They have a bit of a fight outside, then inside. Then AJ goes to the phenomenal forearm, and Grayson Waller ducks out the ring and walks up the ramp. So we get that next week, which will be fun. There's an example of, like... So, I talked about this... Sorry, I'm all over the place in this, but I just want to make a point about what I said before about the new guys should be losing to the old guys. That's not the same as burying them, because I know some people, for some reason, wrestling fans on the internet think losing a match is the same as being buried. Liv Morgan just lost a match at day one to Becky Lynch and came out of that match looking better than she went into it. She was elevated by losing a match. Grayson Waller can be elevated massively by losing to AJ Styles next week. That's what I'm talking about. I don't think Grayson Waller should be arguably one of the best of all time in AJ Styles. Like, there's just no way he should be beating him at this stage in his career. But if he puts in a good performance, a really competitive match, has AJ worried a couple of times, presto, new star. You know, I mean, he's already turning into a new star. But he doesn't need to win to accomplish that, is what I'm getting at. By the way, let me just mention, I turned off NXT after the show where Ciampa won the title, which is weird for me because I really like Ciampa. But I didn't like the fact that they were sort of forcing this new direction, all these new guys. Like, I can't remember how many debuted on that episode, but it felt like about a dozen, like, just new faces just being, like, chucked at the screen. And I was just like, oh my god, I can't remember who all these people are. I don't care about them. Like, transition it slowly. Or do them as one big faction if you have to do it like that, you know, so they all appear in, like, one segment, not through the entire show. So I was getting a bit, like, annoyed with it. But watching this show made me realise they've soon whittled down to the good ones, and they're really getting the pushes. It was like a baptism by fire kind of thing. It was sink or swim. Here we go, we're going to chuck you out on TV. If you sink, then you will stop being on TV. If you swim, you'll carry on being on TV. And the swimmers, they're good swimmers, to be fair. So yeah, I do think Carmelo Hayes, Grayson Waller, who else did we see on this show? We didn't see him as such, but Tony D'Angelo, he's probably my least favourite of the ones that are being featured, but he's still not bad at all by any stretch. Zion Quinn, he's alright, I guess. Let's have a look. Cora Jade needs a bit of work, but is likeable enough. Andre Chase is a good promo. Bron Breakker's great. So yeah, all the new ones that appeared are good. You know, they're certainly picking it up pretty quickly if they're all rookies, like absolute rookies. Anyway, back to the order of business. So yeah, I mentioned that Tony D'Angelo was mentioned rather than seen as such. Angie Pete Dunne I wrote down. He was not pleased about getting hit in the hand with a crowbar, which understandable. You know, it makes him relatable. I'm watching this going, I too would be very displeased with being smacked in the hand with a crowbar. But he challenged Tony D'Angelo to a match next week. So that's one where arguably Pete Dunne could afford to lose that because he's going in with an injury. Tony D'Angelo can expose that injury towards the end. You know, like maybe they get into the nitty gritty of the match and he just like stamps on his hand or something like that, and that causes Pete Dunne immense pain, obviously, and then he can hit his finish or whatever, or a roll up or whatever they want to do, and that can afford to be a win for the new guy. It's like picking your moments to do it. I also think that he could be made to appear better by losing to Pete Dunne. I don't think it really matters who wins that match next week, honestly, as long as he puts in a good performance. But that's the sort of one where I would be tempted to give the new guy the win, with Pete Dunne having the built-in excuse. I love how I'm saying new guy. Yeah, Pete Dunne's been around ages, but he's the same age as like these new guys because he just started wrestling when he was like a 3-month-old fetus or something. Like, he wasn't even born. Anyway, Imperium came out next, and then there was a random backstage segment that set up a 6-woman tag match. Indy Hartwell was there, and her new friend, the other Australian, not sure what her name was. There was some high maintenance gimmick who was sat in the gym. It was in a gym, by the way, this confrontation. She was like sat there, and then when Indy and other Australian tried to get her to be their partner, she rang her dad and complained that after being hired as a wrestler, she was being asked to wrestle in matches or something. I don't know. Then there was some other person sat there that I didn't really understand what the hell was going on with her. And I can't remember who challenged them. I didn't write good notes on this section. Didn't really care about it. So, stuff happened. Women wanted to fight each other. Moving on from a 6-woman tag match being set for next week to a 6-man tag being done right now this week. Look at that beautiful transition. This was Imperium versus... Oh, by the way, I predicted... Oh, no, we've only had one match. Yeah, we'd only had one match. I've talked about a lot of other stuff in between, though. But, yeah, I'll talk about that. I predicted Riddle and MSK to win, and I gave a few reasons. One was Riddle is a main roster star, and the idea with rebooting for NXT 2.0 is they're trying to get rid of this mentality of NXT as a place to stay for life. They're back to NXT as a training ground, like a developmental territory. And with that in mind, the main roster is the promised land. So anyone who comes from the main roster, that's another reason why AJ Styles should win next week, by the way, is anyone who comes from the main roster is better than the people who are in NXT. Otherwise, the people would have been called up by now and would be thriving on the main roster, is the theory. You see where I'm going with this? So I was like, Riddle's team should win because of that. Also, it kind of gives an excuse to have MSK challenge for the tag titles, which seems they're not following through on, which we'll talk about in a minute. But, so there was that reason as well. And also the Riddle and MSK thing was like a big enclosed, encapsulated story that needed a finish, and they were trying to find themselves again, and they used Riddle. They had to win, otherwise the story hasn't been told. They've not found themselves, they've just found some other dude to lose with them, which is not the story that was being told. Sometimes you just have to see the story through. and that was another reason why I thought Riddle and MSK would win. I put a good high octane match. Look at that expert analysis I'm putting in my own notes. Great stuff. And then I put what we've come to expect of tag team wrestling. So, as much as Vince McMahon himself doesn't care about tag team wrestling, it's well documented he does not care about tag team wrestling. Like, people who have been very close to Vince McMahon have confirmed it themselves in their own words. He doesn't really care about tag team wrestling. With that in mind, tag team wrestlers do. AEW care about tag team wrestling. They always have some mad tag match or multi-person matches. Like, every show there's some manic tag team action of some description. Day one, the Usos and the New Day, classic. You know, like they always have. That's a classic example. They always have great tag team matches. Even the Raw tag team title match was really good. You know, this was a 6-man tag. This was really good. There's potential to like do things you can't do in singles matches. Singles matches, you can't have finishers, or not too many of them that don't finish the match, for example, because then people just start complaining because it looks rubbish, which is they are right to. But in tag team matches, you can have a finisher and then someone breaks up the pin, or you can have a finisher but there's already been a tag and it's not the legal man, and you know, so you can have other things happen. And that's just an example, by the way. That's not just me saying matches are better if there's more finishers. It's just an example of something you can do in a tag match that you can't do as much in singles matches. You know, so I think that's why I think they're probably easier to put together and make interesting for the same length of time. Maybe I've never put together a match. I'm not a wrestler. I've never constructed a match. I would imagine it's easier to construct a 15-minute tag match and keep it interesting than a 15-minute singles match and keep it interesting. Just my impression. There was like a mini match in the middle. Walter and Riddle went at it for quite some time in the middle of the match when they both got tagged in. That was really fun. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see that in the future. That would be a fun match. Because Riddle, as much as he's got this goofy character, we must remember, is a legit MMA guy. You know, and he can go in the ring. He really can go. And then Walter is Walter. You know, like, it's just say no more kind of thing. So I think that could be a really fun match if they just, you know, maybe to continue the story, maybe MSK get the title shot and Riddle could come back again one more time and take on Walter on the same show. Just for the fun of it, because it would be fun. But yeah, Riddle won the match with an RKO, and I put to the non-bald one, because I'm not good at Imperium, I'm not good at which ones. I think Marcel Bartel is, or whatever his name is, that sounds ridiculous now I've said that out loud. I think it's not that. Wait. Bartel, though, is the bald one. No. Is Aichner the bald one? Oh, I don't know. The one with hair got pinned by Riddle after an RKO. And I went 2 from 2 on my predictions, which is the important bit. Not which Imperium member got pinned. Next, Mandy Rose arrived at the arena in a helicopter. This was cool. This made her seem like a big deal in a weird way. I mean, anyone can get a helicopter flight. You know, you just go to a place that does helicopter flights and pay. But for some reason, like these big sort of, not stunts as such, but these sort of big scene setters, I guess, like, do make them appeal. Like when John Cena did that entrance when he was in the supercar, outside the inn, and drove into the car park and then got out and walked through to the ring. Stuff like that. It just makes them seem like a bigger deal. I can't explain it. I don't think anyone could actually really explain why it makes them seem like a bigger deal, but it just really does. So she arrives by helicopter. She looks amazing. It was super cool. She's super hot. My thermometer was very confused, and I wrote, yes. For this was worth doing. It was pretty cool. I promised myself I'd Google things and fill in the blanks before I did this video, but then I forgot. So whatever, we're going with it. I wrote Thingamajig Lopez because I can't remember what her first name is. The woman who's been appearing with Santos Escobar and his friends. They keep talking about being familiar. She had an interview where next week it'll be Santos Escobar, who's, you know, the one who brought her in and is the familia, versus Zion Quinn, who she's had a bit of a weird on again, off again romance type hinty thing, not really a romance thing, with. And apparently the winner leaves with her, so she's just put herself up as a prize in a fight, which is strange. But sure. So next week we're getting Escobar, Zion Quinn, which goes on top of Pete Dunne, Tony D'Angelo, and AJ Styles, Grayson Waller. Next week's going to be worth tuning into, guys. It's going to be fun. Up next was the women's title match. Obviously, they'd just done the Mandy Rose arrival. Raquel got a motorbike entrance. It looked cool, but Mandy Rose had just come in a helicopter. So talk about being upstaged before you even did your thing. You know, it was a little bit like, yeah, motorbike's kind of cool. Helicopters are cooler though. Let's be honest. I decided to write again that Mandy Rose is hot. Like, she looks good at the moment. But the thing is, that's okay to sort of point out because that's her gimmick. She's doing well at her gimmick. Her gimmick is good-looking woman that's hated for being good-looking. And, as they were talking about on commentary, that is expected more of, because she's good-looking, she gets sort of downtrodden by the wrestling fans because they're like, oh, she's not good, she's just attractive. So they have to work harder, the really attractive ones, to get the same respect, which is kind of a bit true. So it's fine to mention that, and I don't care, it's my channel. If you don't like it, don't subscribe. This was a decent triple threat in overall. This exposed the difference in the NXT women's division from its peak for me, that this was the title match. Mandy Rose is back in NXT because she arguably wasn't good enough for the main roster right at that moment, you know, to get a bit more polish kind of thing. Raquel has been around for like 18 months in NXT. I don't know if she was a wrestler before NXT. I really don't know. Cora Jade is 14 or something. I don't know how old she is, but she's young. Like, she's super young, so she has not been wrestling for long, you know, just because of her age, even if she wrestled before NXT. But in NXT, she's probably been there like 6 months, if that. And this felt like a match where there wasn't really anyone to sort of carry the work, carry it and make sure the spots worked and what have you. Like, there was a pin really early on where Mandy Rose was pinning Cora Jade, and Raquel went to pull out Cora Jade, but Mandy Rose didn't really time lifting her weight off Jade properly, so Raquel tried pulling two women by one woman's ankle, and basically they didn't move, so the referee had to stop the count. Cora Jade hadn't lifted her shoulders or anything, like, by being dragged. It was blatantly a 3 count. You know, just stuff like that. It just wasn't quite fluid. Overall, though, it was good. It was good enough. It was fine. Like, I'm not trying to downplay it. I'm just saying it was a step below if you put, like a year or two ago, you'd have had Rhea Ripley, Io Shirai, and Dakota Kai, for argument's sake, in this position. Imagine the difference, you know. And then before that, you'd have had like Charlotte, Sasha, and Bayley. Becky Lynch wasn't that big a deal in NXT, but you know, compared with what she is now, she's the one who's done the best stuff to move to main roster because she's a lot bigger than she was in NXT. But back on track. You know what I mean? The quality difference is just slightly noticeable, but still good. You know, like I'm not saying it was bad by any stretch before anyone gets on my back about it. Mandy retained by... I put rolling up Cora Jade, hoping I'd remember what I meant. Cora went for a roll up and Mandy Rose basically sat on her, and then hooked the leg deep. Like, I'm not saying she sat on her like Yokozuna style. I don't think she could pull that off somehow, that gimmick. But she like sat down like she finished doing a Hurricane Rana is the best way I can describe it, and then hooked the legs in, but like really lean forward and pin like Cora Jade's feet down above her head. You know, kind of thing. So Cora was like folded up like an accordion, so it did look like a pin that would be difficult to kick out of, in fairness to them. And I predicted that. I said if anyone was going to win it, it would be Cora Jade, if anyone was going to take the title off Mandy Rose. But I thought Mandy would have a trick up her sleeve. I thought Toxic Attraction would get involved or something like that. But no, she won clean, which was nice. So yeah, good for her. I feel like Raquel Gonzalez is getting called up probably for the Rumble. I put that in the tweet. I think that was why I didn't think she was going to win it. It seemed like she did her unfinished business with Dakota Kai, but on the way out of NXT, traditionally people always did 2 jobs. They always lost the title and then they lost the rematch. I know this wasn't a one-on-one rematch, but she still owed the rematch loss. So I think she's done now. Basically, she's served her purpose and probably getting called up. She may well not do, but just feels like it's call-up time for her to me. I don't know if anyone agrees. Up next, I put promo for Schizophrenic Dude, because he was talking to an imaginary reflection and a voice in his head, you know, like not trying not trying to not belittle, trivialize schizophrenia. I work in mental health. I have seen how serious it is, but it was definitely like signs of that. I don't know if that's what he's going for, but I didn't know his name. Is what I was actually laughing at. Was another one that I didn't know his name. But I think they said later in the show, was it Boa? He's like an Asian dude, and he appears in face paint, and that's like his evil demon side or something. Where have we seen a face painted demon side of someone's personality before? I can't think. But yeah, so he was saying something about he's fighting. I forgot what he's called. I didn't write it down, but it's another relative of the Usos. I don't know if it's the brother or the cousin. Can't remember, but he's turning up in NXT. I think they're fighting. Is that next week as well? Pretty busy card. I mean, that's only 4 matches, like, but you know, it's still a. In terms of WWE pre-announcing matches, 4 is a lot. You know, they're not that company usually. You know, so it seemed like a lot. Not in a bad way. It just seemed like more than they would usually do. But yeah, it was okay. He was talking about how he wants to do it by himself. He doesn't want the demon side getting involved and taking over him. Like that's again the sort of schizophrenia thing. It seems like it almost is like Finn Balor, who I was alluding to before, seems like he summons the demon and controls the demon side of himself to an extent. To an extent, I feel like once he's in demon form, maybe not so much, but he's in control of when it comes out. This guy is sort of trying to imply he's not in control of when it takes over. It's going to happen to him rather than him doing it, which, you know, it'll be interesting. I'll see how it plays out. Next, we had Riddle and MSK hugging goodbye for now. He specifically said it's not goodbye forever, it's just goodbye for now. And then I think they're called the Creed Brothers. Came over and said the only way you're getting a tag title shot is if you win the Dusty Cup. Oh, by the way, you're not going to because we're in it. So basically, MSK and Creed Brothers declare for the Dusty Cup. And I wrote down here, safe space guy, because I can't remember his name either. The guy who's taking the mick out of liberals, you know, being all like sensitive, you know, because God forbid you care about other people's feelings. And then shaved Brock Lesnar. I'm just writing descriptors so that I could look them up later. I think his name's Harland or something, right? They'd already declared for the Dusty Rhodes Classic as well earlier, but I'd forgotten to write down exactly when that took place in the show. But I just thought I'd shoehorn that in because I as soon as they did that, I was like, oh, I didn't write down about that. And then I thought, do I rewind through and find out when it was? And I thought, nah, it'll be fine here. It's only someone declaring for a tournament. It'll be fine. Next was an Andre Chase promo. This guy's good on the mic. He's good at what he does. He was talking about a student saving him last week. I didn't watch NXT last week. I have been getting back into watching it after having a bit of a hiatus, but I missed it last week and forgot to catch up with it. But he's obviously got this Andre Chase University gimmick where he's like training students or something, and apparently one of them saved him from someone, so they get a full scholarship, which everyone seemed very happy about. Then Von Wagner interrupts, which I remember his name mostly because they said it just before I wrote it down, but also I do actually remember him. He might be my least favourite. I'm not big on Von Wagner, he just seems boring. Like, he's just big angry man. I've seen that like a million times. You know, like, it's just not interesting really, is it? So anyway, he interrupted, he said a bit, not much, and then he attacked Chase. Then he attacked the scholarship guy, and then he attacked a, quote, NXT Universe member. So obvious plant was manhandled by wrestler. Then I think they went to adverts, and then they came back, and the commentators were, you know, playing it up. You don't put hands on a fan, you know, you know, and it's like no one's buying it. But then it cuts to Wagner being escorted out the building by security, and he passes by Roderick Strong, who's getting some medical attention just in the middle of a corridor, as one does. You know, they don't have you know, a doctor's room or anything like a medical room. They just whatever. They're just next to the catering, so he can pick up dinner. You know, like whatever. But yeah, I feel like they teased something between them there. He sort of like looked at him and smirked, and then the girl in Roderick Strong's stable in the Diamond Mine, I can't remember her name, she kind of squared up to him, and he's like, what are you going to do? And then gets escorted out. So I feel like they're moving to Wagner and Roderick Strong, which is weird because I thought the Diamond Mine were heels. They feel heelish. But this will be the second program in a row that Roderick Strong's had with another heel, so are they supposed to be face? I don't understand, or are they just not fussed anymore in NXT? It's just, yeah, fight whoever. Anyway, then we had like a Cameron Grimes video package / promo where he talked about 2020 to the moon, which, you know, very good, very good. He's talked about stopping chasing green and starting chasing gold, so he's obviously got his eyes set on winning the championship. I would hazard a guess he's probably going to go after Carmelo Hayes. But he could be a decent first challenger for Bron Breakker. Spoilers, Bron Breakker wins the main event. You won't be watching this if you cared about spoilers, but it could be a good first challenger because, you know, obviously Bron Breakker should get every retain, and Cameron Grimes is a decent name, but without being too good. You know, where Bron Breakker's just running through all the top guys in quick succession. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see which title he's going for. Who knows? He might find a partner and go for the Dusty Classic and go for the tag titles. Really don't know. I like Cameron Grimes. He's good. Like, nothing else to add, just speculation. So the Dunn versus D'Angelo match was then announced as being a crowbar and a pole match. That's all I have to say about that. It really is. Main event. Bron Breakker versus Tommaso Ciampa for the NXT Championship. I was just thinking, did I mention that I predicted the last match right? But yes, I did. I scrolled back up and I was like, yes, I remember doing that. Yeah, this was a really fun match. Bron Breakker's really coming along. Like, he's deserving this spot as the main guy out of the new guys. He really is. Alright, really enjoying it. I'm Captain ADD over here missed Ciampa getting busted. I must have, like, I don't know, looked at something else for a bit, I don't know. And then I was like, oh, why Ciampa got colour? What happened? So I rewound and then I watched it again. I was like, wait, I didn't see anything, but he wasn't bleeding there and he was there. Took me a few goes. I feel like I missed it about 5 times. I feel like what actually happened was that standing moonsault that Bron Breakker did. It looked like his right arm, whichever one was near Ciampa's head, kind of was a bit wayward. And when he landed, I think he like just caught Ciampa with his forearm, just like on the corner of the eyebrow bone, which is a notorious place, I don't know if you guys know this, that wrestlers used to hit each other to draw a bit of colour the legit way without using a blade, because it's apparently quite fragile skin there, so it's easy to just break without like hitting it too hard and like concussing your opponent or something. So I feel like he just caught him there, because that's the only movement between Ciampa not having blood and having blood, so I'm guessing that was it. Let me know what you think caused that blood, but I think it was that. The match overall was great. I'm not going to talk about the whole match, but the one thing I did want to talk about was that there was a point where Breakker went to do his press slam, you know, running power slam combo thing, and Ciampa kind of fell out of it into a DDT. Breakker fell through the ropes and then he dropped in Willow's Bell. I put it was beautifully messy. It looked like legit like a struggle between two guys to hit the move they had in mind, but it also came off quite fluidly and clean. It was like very, very well executed. It might have been slightly botched, but it was so well recovered or carried that it just looked good. It looked like two guys actually fighting for the spot. Sometimes wrestling can look too clean. Looks too choreographed, like it very much can, and this didn't. This looked really sort of legit, even though obviously we know it's not. So very nice. The Alabama slam through the announce table. I wrote oofed. That was a vicious shot. And I don't know if you noticed, but everything about the announce table caved except the front bit that was just digging into the middle of Ciampa's back, and then that fell over. And I was like, oh, so basically he just hit the edge of something with his back at that speed. Like that must have stung. I bet that stings today. Breakker kicked out of the fairy tale ending, and unfortunately, when I watched it wasn't live. I watched it a little bit late, and I knew that Breakker won. But I'm fairly convinced I would have believed that was the finish if I hadn't have known that. That was a very well executed false finish. And then the actual finish, Breakker hit the middle rope bulldog, jumping off the middle rope to Ciampa, who was standing in the ring with his back to him, and then applied a Steiner recliner. And Vic Joseph took great pleasure in using the word recline about 50 million times as well. I don't know if you noticed that. And then mentioned the pup has become a dog-faced gremlin, which I thought was a bit too on the nose, if anything. But yeah, the bulldog into Steiner recliner using his his dad's move into his uncle's move to win his first championship, I thought was a really nice touch. Like, I thought that was really cool. And Ciampa had already got a rope break out of his finisher, you know, his usual press slam into power slam finisher. He did hit it after that counter I was talking about, and Ciampa got a hand to the ropes. Breaker showed his inexperience in that spot, by the way, a little bit by going to hook the leg, then realising he shouldn't hook the leg because then Ciampa can't get his leg to the rope, so then he just decided not to hook the leg, which makes no sense for within kayfabe for the wrestler to think, I'll hook the leg, then think, nah. You know, and then Ciampa ended up reaching out with the arm anyway, I think because he wasn't sure what Breaker was doing with his leg, so he just played it safe. It's probably supposed to be a leg rope break, but, you know, again, he just improvised because Ciampa's experienced and can do stuff like that on the fly, whereas Breaker kind of... You're supposed to hook the wrong leg, aren't you, so that the one nearest the ropes can still reach across, but he hooked, like, the far leg, so he kind of had both legs, couldn't reach the ropes, but then he let go, and yeah, it just seemed a bit inexperienced, but it's, like, literally my only criticism of him in this match. Bron Breakker carried his end of the bargain brilliantly for me, and it's not difficult to have a good match with Tommaso Ciampa, so... but yeah, Ciampa tapped to the Steiner recliner, which was a big wow. You know, like, I didn't think that was actually going to be the finish of the match. I thought it was going to be like Ciampa maybe reached the ropes and then took another press slam and got pinned. I predicted Breaker to win this. I just felt like it was time. The entire story arc would have been pointless if he hadn't won here. It would have just been like... It would have derailed all his momentum. Like, I know I said you can look better coming out in defeat. He already did that. Then he won at War Games. He loses here. Why does he ever get another shot as long as Ciampa's champion? And he's obviously the heir apparent. Like, so why delay it and end up making Ciampa lose it to someone else? Or make Ciampa keep it for, like, a long time so you can get away with bringing Breaker back to the forefront. Like, there's just no point in having Ciampa win that match. And I'm a huge Ciampa fan. I'd have Ciampa be champion forever. But I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to build up new stars, and they're trying to do it quickly. And Bron Breakker is the main one that they want to do that with. So put the belt on him, and they did. So there we go, 4 from 4. It was all very logical booking. The fact that it was predictable didn't take away from it for me at all. I think people sometimes complain about predictability. If you've got a logical mind and you're able to predict what they're doing, that means what they're doing is logical and makes sense, which is good. And yeah, sure, sometimes there's swerves and they catch you off guard, and as long as the swerve is still logical, that's good as well. But an entire show being predictable isn't always a bad thing. I'm fine with that. Like, that's good. And I wrote at the end, just my finishing thoughts, great show. Really was. I was thoroughly enjoying it. Like I said earlier in the video, I switched off NXT, and I think I only really came back to it around War Games. So I've only been back watching a few weeks, but I've been really enjoying it. I'm sort of regretting prejudging it a little bit. I felt like they were trying too hard to push too many new names down my throat, and I don't like things being forced down my throat, contrary to popular belief. So I sort of pushed back against it. My natural stubbornness came out. Like, I'm very stubborn, and I was like, no, I will not like your new people, Vince McMahon. Give me back Triple H's NXT. And actually, NXT 2.0 isn't a bad show. I can't remember watching one and thinking, well, that was a waste of my time. So, you know, it's still somehow better than Raw and arguably SmackDown. Probably not. SmackDown's alright, but you know, do you know what I would say in conclusion? This is the wrong place to talk about this. I should do a video just on this. WWE as a whole has improved. The old, you know, what is it? A rising tide lifts all ships or something like that. However that phrase that I just butchered is actually worded, it's kind of true. They have stepped the game up since AEW stepped theirs up and started signing your Punks and your Danielsons and your Adam Coles. They've stepped the game up a little bit. Not every decision they make is right, but the shows, are, like Raw especially, is much more watchable than it was a year ago, 6 months ago even. SmackDown's been pretty good for a while. NXT's not suffered as much as I thought it would for this massive transition they've put it through. WWE is not that terrible anymore. I mean, as a company and ethically, they're awful. But I mean, like, I mean, just like as a product to watch on TV, forget the politics, the behind the scenes stuff, just as an entertainment product alone, it's definitely not as bad as it was a year ago. It's definitely improving. So, kudos. Anyway, I've waffled on for long enough. I enjoyed the show. Let me know what you thought of it in the comment section down below. What was your match of the night? This is a tough one for me. I thought all the matches were good. The women's match was definitely the weak link, but it was nowhere near a bad match. It was a good match. It was, you know, it just wasn't as good as the other three in my personal opinion. And I think that was just down to the combined experience level of the women involved, which is fine. You need to gain experience to become experienced. So they have to do this. I mean, I would personally always have one experienced person holding the match down, but you know, it didn't suffer too much. Couple of spots that were a bit janky, but so it wasn't a women's match for me. You let me know. I'm struggling to pick between the three men's matches. Honestly, the opener was really good. The 6-man tag was great fun, and Ciampa Breaker was really fun. Really good story told about the wily veteran, like running out of tricks in his bag of tricks. You know, he wasn't trying to outfight Braun Breaker. He was trying to outthink him, and he was running out of ideas. And I thought that was pretty cool. And the little nod from Ciampa at the end was really good as well. You know, not the cliche big handshake gesture. He lay there and he just went, just nodded. Sort of a bit of a wry smile on his face, like, yep, he got me, and then left. And I'm like, that was perfect for Ciampa. Anywho, waffle. Let me know in the comments which was your match of the night. Was the point of that waffle? Leave a like if you enjoyed this review, and don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to hear me talk about more wrestling, and also do other wrestling related things. But for now, all I have left to say is thank you very much for watching or listening. As always, I've been EBEZA, you've been amazing, and I will see you next time.